One of the first things that President Biden did was to recommit to WHO, recommit to the Paris Climate Agreement. Is this an administration that will recommit to multilateralism, and what might that mean for global trade?
Happy New Year to you too, Linda. Yes, I think we have heard the news that President Biden has done for the first day of his term of office. We are optimistic that the U.S. will want to continue to stay engaged with the world, and especially with this part of the world. And to that extent, I think Singapore would like to partner the U.S. constructively to see how the U.S. can continue to stay engaged with this part of the world, strengthen its investment in this part of the world, and create more economic opportunities for everyone.
But even during the Obama administration, which committed to the Asia pivot, that was when Biden was vice president, his administration fell short of that Asia pivot. I mean, what are you expecting? What would you like to see?
Well, actually, if you look at it, the volume of U.S. investment in the region is still substantial, and its growth has also been healthy. Just taking Singapore as an example, the U.S. investment in Singapore is still by far the most significant, and it has a diversity of companies in the diversity of sectors, in diverse sectors in this part of the world, to not just to service the Singapore market, but to service the rest of the world. And this is where I think Singapore can play a constructive role for both U.S. and Chinese companies to stay engaged in this part of the world and use Singapore as a platform to launch their operations across the region and beyond.
Countries like Singapore often see the U.S. playing a leadership role. We're talking about an increasingly G2 world, the U.S. and China both wanting to provide that global leadership. What is the best way for the U.S. to engage with this part of the world?
Well, this part of the world is big enough for both of them to be constructively engaged. There will be many areas which the U.S. will compete with China, but I think there will be even more areas where the U.S. can work with China to uphold the standards of behavior, to uphold the global security and trading order, and at the same time to update some of these global rules for trade so that we can position ourselves for the next leg of growth.
Is Singapore already in touch with anyone from the Biden administration?
Yes, we are keeping in close contact with the new administration.
What would you like to see in the first 100 days of the Biden administration that could impact Singapore?
Well, I think the Biden administration has said that its primary focus for the initial part of this term will be to make sure that it overcomes the coronavirus in U.S. But at the same time, I think they will want to put in place the measures to sustain their long-term competitiveness. And from Singapore and ASEAN perspective, we'd like to see continued U.S. engagement, trade flows into this region, together with China as well.
Minister, Singapore is set to host the World Economic Forum in May. Some in the country are questioning why, just as some are questioning why Japan is hosting the Olympics at a time when virus cases are still spreading. What's the value in hosting the World Economic Forum here in the Lion City?
Well, Haslinda, if we have to hold the World Economic Forum or any other major international event, we want to make sure that it's safe. And as the WEF has mentioned, if it's to be held, it will be held safely. And if it can't be held safely, nobody will want to hold it, be it the Olympics or be it the WEF. So we have put in place the necessary measures to make sure that if we are to conduct this in May, we'll be able to conduct it safely with considerations for the health of our people in Singapore and also the health of the participants so that they can interact amongst themselves and with Singaporeans in a safe manner. And for the rest of the world, I think everyone is looking to see if this will be a way for us to go forward in a COVID or a post-COVID world where business people can still meet safely and conduct face-to-face interactions that is so essential to create new business opportunities.
But, Minister, there's been a lack of clarity on the details of this meeting here in Singapore. How big will it be? How will testing be done? Are there perhaps, deal breakers
Well, of course, there are many uncertainties from now till then. It all depends on how the global pandemic situation pans out, how the virus may evolve. But at any point in time, any meetings in Singapore will adhere to the prevailing health conditions, and we will adjust our prevailing health measures according to the health conditions in the country and around us. Just as you have seen how we have done in the recent months, to adjust our measures according
Minister,
to the
some suggesting that the meeting could host about 1,000 people. Can you shed some clarity on it? How big will it be? Will it host about 1,000 people, 2,000 people? What are we looking at?
Well, I think that is very much within the range that the WEF is planning for. But for us as the host, I think we will also want to make sure that we have a range of possibilities, because it's not just about the participants, it's also about the staffers, the security personnel that might be involved. So we do have a range of possibilities planned on how big the event may be, depending on the conditions around the world, and also depending on the ability of the WEF to bring in the significant delegates. I think our focus is not just on the numbers, but it's also on the quality of the program and the quality of the participants.
Singapore has seen a reemergence of the virus cases, a few cases each day. Has that kind of disrupted Singapore's plan to further ease restrictions, for example, having more people in the office? Is that delaying further easing of restrictions?
Well, we'll make the necessary adjustments according to the prevailing health conditions around. Just as we have always said, we will adjust it up or down depending on the situation in Singapore and around the world. And that is what I think many people across the world has also done, which is to do what they call the hammer and dance. After you have suppressed the huge wave, you must continue to carefully watch the conditions and adjust your measures accordingly.
Minister, I can't let you go without asking this question. We have the budget coming up in February. Singapore's already committed to $100 billion in stimulus. Is that enough, or could we see further aid coming in the form of the budget?
Well, we have said this before. The focus on the budget is not on the size of the budget per se. The focus on the budget is that now we have gone beyond the initial phase of stabilization. It's how we continue to provide targeted measures to help our companies and people to pivot to the new economy. The aim of our measures is not to get us back to the pre-COVID situation. The aim of our measures is to get our people and our businesses to a new, higher plane so that they can compete for the future.